If the argument is that Christianity has done a lot of good in history, yes, I agree. No argument. If the argument is that Christianity had improved certain civilizations tremendously from what they were before, no argument. This is not a debate. I think the same thing could be said of Islam. Did Islam improve the situation in the Arabian Peninsula? You bet. That's not what I'm here to debate tonight. I was asked, what is a better basis for civil society? So let's look at the situation right now. What demographic group in the United States is the most Christian? And I'm measuring that by church attendance, faith in Jesus, belief that the scriptures are of divine inspiration or origin, frequency of prayer. Every measure you can think of. What demographic group in this country is the most Christian? African Americans. Now, what I'm going to say can be misinterpreted, and I hope it's not. But Du Bois would agree with me. What demographic group in this country faces the most problems? Highest poverty rates, highest murder rates, highest teen pregnancy rates, highest diabetes rates, highest unemployment rate, you name it. So, do I think it's because they're Christian? Of course not. It's something else is going on. What demographic in this country is the least Christian? Jews and Asian Americans. Jews deny the divinity of Christ outright. So there's and Jews are actually the most secular group in America today. So we have two demographics, Asian Americans, who do have a small proportion who are Christian, but the majority are not, and they have a high percentage of secular identification, Asian Americans. Jews and Asian Americans are doing the best in this country. Educational attainment, income, life expectancy, you name it, however you want to measure it. Now what's going on here? Do I think it's because they're not Christian? Of course not. How simplistic, how ridiculous. But this should cause for pause. Something's going on here. Something other than Christianity would help us explain why these two groups are experiencing such different social realities. Let's broaden it. Pew Research gives us a lot of information. What are the most Christian states in this country, measured by, again, belief, behavior, and belonging? Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Oklahoma, tied with Utah. These are the states with the highest murder rates, the highest poverty rates, crumbling schools, underfunded hospitals, highest murder rates, highest obesity rates, you name it. However you like. The least Christian states in America, again, measured by standard sociological measures of belief, behavior, and belonging. Maine, Vermont, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Alaska, Oregon, and California. Faring markedly better on all these indicators. Not every single one, and these are averages and percentages. Why? Is it because one's Christian? No. Something else is going on here. What is that something else? Let's go internationally. The most Christian countries in the world today: Zambia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guatemala, El Salvador, Ecuador, Rwanda, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Ghana, Venezuela, Mexico, Jamaica. The most secular societies today, organically secular, meaning that's not being forced by some lunatic atheist dictator. Democratic societies that have given up their religion for the most part. Sweden, Denmark, Czech Republic, Japan, Canada, Norway, Finland, New Zealand, South Korea, Estonia, France, Russia, Bulgaria, Netherlands, Slovenia, Germany, Hungary, Great Britain, Australia, Belgium. Which set of countries is faring the best? So you can take an individual demographic group, go to the States, or go internationally. We see the same correlation. Those societies that are most secular today are faring the best on almost every measure. Compare Japan's murder rate to El Salvador's or Colombia's. Japan is one of the least Christian countries in the world. El Salvador and Jamaica among the most. So if Christianity was the answer, we wouldn't see these correlations. And granted, they're just correlations. It's not causation. Something else is going on here. I agree that those countries that are faring well come out of a Christian heritage. I agree. But they are post-Christian now. Society progresses. Society moves on. Society evolves. We know that. I think Christianity contributes much and continues to contribute much. You bet. And I don't want to see Christianity go away. I think Christianity has wonderful, wonderful elements. I just don't want it to be the the basis. Not a basis, but the basis. And that's what this debate has asked me to say. What would happen if we declared Christianity the basis of American civil society? I don't think it would be very pretty. Christianity teaches peace. But which are the most peaceful societies today? The least Christian. Nah, I should take that back. North Korea is pretty awful too. And they're not Christian. But on average, if we just look at democracies, so let's get the dictatorships out and the fascists out. Which democracies are the most peaceful? The least Christian democracies. Who is most for going to war and attacking other nations in this country? Evangelical Christians and Mormons. Who's the least in favor of going to war and attacking other nations? Secular Americans. Child abuse fatalities are 4 times higher in Kentucky than in Oregon. Who's more supportive of guns, owning guns? Last time I checked, guns could be peaceful for self-defense, but, assault rifles and automatic weapons. Who's most supportive of distributing guns of all kinds? Strong Christians. Who's the least supportive? Secular Americans. Christianity teaches mercy and forgiveness. Well, who supports the death penalty in this country? Strong Christians. Who's the most against the death penalty? Secular Americans. Who supports the governmental use of torture? Strong Christians. Who's the most against the governmental use of torture? Secular Americans. Christianity teaches love. Amen to that. And yet, which Americans were the most supportive? Which among white Americans were the most supportive of the civil rights? Secular white Americans. Who was the most against it? Strongly Christian. South Africa and apartheid. What whites were the most supportive of apartheid? The most Christian. What South African whites were the most against apartheid? The most secular and the Jewish. Which Americans today are the most opposed to amnesty for illegal immigrants? The strongly Christian. I guess there is no room at the inn. But who's most supportive of amnesty for immigrants and illegal immigrants? Secular Americans. Who's most against the Affordable Health Care Act or Obamacare? Strong Christians. Who's most supportive? Strongly secular. We have seen this pattern over and over again. If Christians would be the basis for a civil society, I fear that the love ethic might not be the basis, but division, because we're not all Christians. We're Buddhists, we're Muslims, we're Jews, we're Baha'is, we're Shinto, we're Hindu, we're atheists, we're Sikhs, we're Scientologists, we're Nez Perce, we're Wiccan, we're Druid. And so again, while we may not all be Christian, we are all human. And secular humanism is an orientation to life created by people, for people. Now, I think there's a place for faith. I can't imagine life without it. I think there's a place for hope. I can't imagine life without it. But when looking at how we're going to structure a society, we need reason, we need evidence, we need experience. We the people is how this country was founded. It was good enough for our founding fathers, and it's good enough for us all today. And I will just end with the heart of secular humanism, and that is treat others as you wish to be treated. That is the heart and soul. Professor Marshall keeps calling secular humanism squishy, squeamish, or something. No, it's pretty darn simple. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And that ethic is universal. It is found long before the Gospels, thousands of years in ancient Egypt, in ancient China, all over the world. Why? Because it's based on basic concepts like empathy, for which our brains have evolved for, experience. Its reciprocity is self-evident, and there is no God necessary to understand it or to live it. And I believe if we're going to have any basis of a civil society, it should be treat others as you would like to be treated. And I think we're all good, which, by the way, is also quoted by Jesus. So I see wonderful common ground there. Thank you very much for listening to me. Sorry if I ranted.